I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's April 16th, 2025, and it's the regular monthly meeting. We'll begin with pledge of allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call to establish that we have our quorum, please.
Maybe. I'm a little
Maybe.
discombobulated here. Merle Tucson,
Here.
Dick Stevens,
Here.
Mike Smith,
Here.
Craig Parker.
Here.
Oh, okay, and Janet Quinn.
Yes, we have our quorum. And we have minutes from the February 19th meeting. Was relatively short. I see a little typo under new business, National Register, on the third line, it just says nation.
I'm sorry, where was that, Jamie?
Third line of a new business paragraph.
Okay, thank you.
Any other revisions? Mike? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I attached, well, we've sent in the March report to the village board, and then April, and I basically said we did not meet in March. And that Lawler Commercial Properties has an incomplete site plan application before the board for an exterior door that was installed on the laundromat building without zoning approval. The applicant did not submit the required environmental assessment form as requested, so the board could not proceed with the review of the application. With no other business, the March meeting was canceled. So I did include that in last night at the village board. They didn't have this copy to look at, so I did gave them a verbal report of that, and in consultation with Jim, thought it would be good for them to know that we're not getting a response, and that may ultimately lead to a enforcement issue. So I don't know how long our enforcement officer wants to let this go on, but it was tabled in January. So anyway, and I mentioned it to our mayor, and he may reach out to the applicants, see if he can get something taken care of. Okay, so first item under old business is the Lawler commercial property, and as I just stated, we don't have any other information. So that remains tabled since the January meeting. Application 25-5 under new business, James C. It's an application for site plan review for the building that's at 208 West Main Street. The building previously was an Airbnb and a portion of the structure, and then a retail store market on Main. The new owner will retain that seasonal rent or the rental properties. And has plans to open bubble tea business. And the project's in the core, the historic overlay, and the National Register. And our applicant is an online issue.
No.
Okay. She had intentions of being here, and she came a day early last night. Fortunately, I've talked with her a lot. I've visited a few times, so I have a pretty good idea of what's going on here. She wants to paint exterior surfaces that are already painted, staying with the same color, and that painting has been underway. The back upper sliding door areas, the front window areas, side doors where the Airbnb doors, entrances are. If you want to keep the color just the same, looks good, let's review. With one part of the painting is new, which is why Jim and I thought we should talk about the painting. Is there's a portion of the back and side wall that's masonry over brick, and she thinks it's not very attractive. And there it is various colors just from aging and weather. So she wants to paint that a gray, so it's similar to what's there. And the gray she has selected is a gray color that's been on the door trim. So the doors are yellow. And then there's some decorative trim on the panels, inset panels of the door that is a accent color. So in a way, it's staying with the same, it is the same color scheme, but it is a surface that hadn't previously been painted. And it, in terms of, it's not painting brick, it's painting masonry, and there are other buildings right in the neighborhood across the street, Battlefield Eatery up in the trunk, that's a brick building with masonry painted. And a couple other structures, so the precedent has already been set for that. And then the second item is signage, and she had proposed window decals and hanging sign. And I think after lots of discussion, the only sign she's including is a hanging sign.
See.
Oh, darn it. Oh, I bet she just sent me a picture. Basically what it is she took a picture of Goodfellow sign and said, we want this sign, but of course it won't.
So just take it.
Yeah. But she did indicate what will be on it, but, I'm sorry, I thought that was in the packet. She had, a description of information. I don't think all this would fit on her Goodfellow size sign, but it's like, bubble tea and treats or something like that. But, so, we would need to know what exactly would be on her sign, but it says she wants the same style and dimensions, and there is already a hanging sign hardware several stores ago, there was one there. Actually, there's one on each side of the building, but she prefers the one near the doorway. So those first two are, I think, relatively minor, the painting, the signage. The third change in use, Jim and I had some discussion about this. Our definitions, of course, don't really include a bubble tea shop. We have retail, and that includes a bakery, services and goods. Then there's a category called retail not listed. And then there's a category restaurant. I asked her if she will have tables, and she said probably 2 or 3 little tables.
What is a bubble tea? What is?
Bubble tea is a beverage that, I don't know what the matrix is, like if it's all fruit juice or, but they put tapioca pearls in the bottom. And then often add fruit or ice cream. Like, in fact, one sign she showed me a drawing, which was some commercial art that said something like bubble tea and ice cream, or had a picture of ice cream sundaes. And I said, oh, so you're going to have ice cream and there'll be competition for across the street. She said, no, we're not serving ice cream. I said, well, the sign shows ice cream bowls. She was, well, we would offer ice cream to put in the bubble tea. I've never had bubble tea, but my understanding is it's quite popular in more urban areas and with a lot of younger people than I am.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had it either, but I've seen that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Like, I think if you went to some college campuses, you'd be like, oh, yeah.
so, but I mean, how's the ice cream stand classified? Cause it would
Jim,
still,
do you know what the ice cream?
No, I'm assuming restaurant.
I personally feel like retail is a better description, given the nature of this business. Just- I know,
The,
but
the
retail,
only reason it makes a difference is parking requirements. I mean, that's the only thing I can see that would be different between the two classifications, and in a sense, it's both.
yeah,
So,
and what's interesting are definitions, all right, so retail, and as Jim pointed out, most of these are for consumption off-site. Establishment selling goods to the public for personal and household consumption, including but not limited to a bakery, delicatessen, grocery, florist, liquor, convenience store, variety store, whereas a restaurant and establishment where prepared food is sold for consumption on the premise or takeout, including a bar or pub, and or other establishments that sells food and alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption. You think a restaurant?
I don't know, because she would fall under like food inspectors, right, if she's serving food, I think. I don't,
Yeah,
I wouldn't,
I mean,
want to have the person, have an issue with one versus the other.
like Chrissy Dean, that's a restaurant.
I don't know.
I would say so.
I would say so, especially in more.
Because it's got-
than it used to be.
I
Yeah.
mean, the bubble tea is pretty much similar to China tea and caramel in it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not a whole lot different.
Yeah, okay, so for our record, I think we should, note that our discussion included the painting and the new surface, the masonry surface that would be painted, signage, the hanging sign, and the change in use, determining that it is a restaurant.
Does that change in use, if we change that use to restaurant, and she changes the business plan, or she sells the building, does that go that for you?
No, it would go back, like, if I wanna open up a, station or store, then it would come back, or, and Jim and I had a little difference of opinion. If you read the change of use, a change of use is the initiation of a use that is in a different use category as listed on the use table from the existing use of the site. A use category, well, there's a heading on the zoning table called use category. And then there's a clump called residential, there's a clump called business, and then community. So to me, those are the use categories, but Jim feels, and I see both sides of it, that each specific one is a use category, mobile park, restaurant. So if it was a dog kennel and I buy it and it's staying a dog kennel, then it wouldn't need a change of use. But if it was a dog kennel and it becomes bubble tea, that's a change in use. Not so much residential or any retail, any commercial is okay, because they do have different demands in public. So I think Jim's more accurate than I was on that.
There's a change of use, and then change of use can. The use would fall under each other.
Well, that's the tricky part, because I was.
and that's why I'm, that does have some specifics uses under business uses, so that's why I was saying.
Yeah.
There's a change between one to another. It
What's
should
the
be,
use now?
it had been retail.
Have been retail.
Yeah, because they sold.
I think it's still retail.
Well, that's kind of what I thought, but
I don't. think
it
it's
doesn't
close.
really
I
matter,
don't think it's even close to a restaurant. Doesn't have a kitchen,
right?
doesn't have a
But they're
stove.
preparing food to have it
Preparing
served
food.
and eat on each.
She's
day,
preparing a
consume-
beverage.
She's preparing a beverage.
Consume on premises. When it's like, you're not gonna.
Well, it'll be both, go in, buy it, and walk down to the.
Oh, I see what yeah. You're saying that it's consumed at a site.
And I
more like a
could see
restaurant.
them adding on to that, potentially
Honestly,
to like more food, it would just make sense to,
And I want to add,
Classify it as a restaurant.
yeah.
this is not currently in conversation with her. She and her husband own the Japanese steakhouse on her street. And you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I said, oh, would you ever consider having products here for purchase? Like, could you call and place an order for sushi, pick it up for stuff, like if the restaurant had, and she said, yeah, we might do that. And I
Well,
said,
then
well, if you're going to do
Just
that,
make difference.
that's a different thing. And she said, no, not now. You're not doing it.
For the long run.
Yeah.
But that's
I don't
what
want- I don't.
but, so I pressed her and I said, you mean like later this year? She said, no, we are bubble tea. But, you know, the only reason it really matters is for the next owner, or if she wanted to change her mind. Because it doesn't mean we have to do anything different, but it could potentially affect, would be parking. Parking. We get into parking. Tim and I were talking about this today. Parking for dwelling units is one requirement. Parking for retail is another. So she's got a blend there. And so then the restaurant,
That's the difference too.
one space for every 70 square feet of patron space. Whereas retail is one space for each 400 square feet. So significant parking.
Yeah.
in Texas.
How does a Main Street business deal with that? Like,
Yeah.
parking is not designated parking anyway, it's
Right.
kind of like hit or miss.
Right, well,
You
we,
could say that the spaces in front of my store are for my store, but. how do you-
yeah,
But they're
No,
not,
it's-
that's public parking and there's the public lot across the street.
but the zoning is on site. And we've grappled with this, but I'd say she's in a unique spot. She has 4 parking spaces that go with her property on the side. And then 2 in the back that are actually 2 cars deep, like. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
So you
so
find
she
8 spots.
has technically 8 spots.
So how did, the building also has, rental spaces.
Well,
That,
How does that work in also with the,
yeah, that has a requirement for parking too, but
right,
in addition?
would you say 6 or 8?
the residential is 2 spaces per dwelling unit,
Right,
but these, right, the way. She's, and the previous owner, she's not renting them out full time, she's planning to do Airbnb, temporary rentals. So we don't have a parking for that, but Jim, you were citing,
You have one for the hotel?
yeah, bed and breakfast, right? What was the use you found?
guest house.
Guest house,
Yes. And motel and hotel,
tourist homes, right?
yeah, tourist homes has a different,
0.75
Really?
for
Yeah.
each dwelling room.
And there's 2 there? or 3?
Our zoning law doesn't consider the commercial parking?
oh yeah, it does. That's what we're talking about, retail and restaurant, that's
Well, I
commercial.
mean, you got a parking lot across the street.
Well, you have, the planning board has the ability to waive the requirements and acknowledge things like the on-street parking and the lot. Where it has come into play in the past of requiring people to have parking would be a place like Tin Pan, and the Comedy Club. They used to lease space from Lawler down at the hardware store, and they even had arrangements with the school and the church.
Yeah.
To, so if they had a wedding or something, I think the ballroom is that way too.
They did, they got an agreement with the school.
Right, right. So that,
Is
they met their parking requirement by having an arrangement with these off-site.
do you know
places.
if that's a state, are we following state law, or is that something that we created?
I think we agree.
So I think, given the fact, her bubble tea is gonna be seasonal. Okay, so there's nothing going on whenever the season ends. There's 3 rental units. They're not, at least as of now, they're not doing it full time. So that's, sometimes there'd be a car and sometimes there wouldn't be. So we have 3 rental units, and this is 0.75 for each sleeping room. So that's 3, yeah. Yeah. 1, yeah. And then if we call it retail, 1 space for each 400, or if we call it restaurant, 1 for each 70 square feet of patron space.
But how much patron space
Not
is,
much in that,
yeah, so it's really probably not just be one.
but I don't think we need to nitpick a lot on this. There's
Okay.
8 parking spaces. And I feel like that's adequate for the use as is now. And if she changes it and it becomes another steakhouse or something, then that's a different. But I don't know, that's.
Well, and again, you have the ability to provide relief from parking requirements under
Do you read that?
letter F.
Do you read that, except that a reduction in the number of required spaces in the village core also must be approved by the village board?
Yeah, it does say that.
Which,
But I think, like you said, you probably got minimally covered with what she has.
for the types of uses, and it's a gray area, it's not a full-fledged restaurant.
Right,
It's not 3 full-time dwelling units.
right. Now, I would think the dwelling units could change if she decided to do apartments.
Right.
But then those parking spaces would be taken up by that, and she might be short on
Right,
her
Or
restaurant.
the same thing if they opened up a steakhouse.
Well, that would definitely change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's take it a step at a time situation. As one son's in college and the other's nearing college age and is interested in business and they wanna have it.
So does it, I think it helps her, I think, if we change it to restaurants. In the long run.
Yeah, thinking ahead,
Looking at
and that's what he kind of felt it was most appropriate.
And I'm saying that because I'm inclined to say restaurant, because she's not just providing a soft drink off the counter and handing it.
Right.
She's making something, and adding and mixing, and to me, and then having tables to sit at, I feel like that's
Yeah.
more restaurant-ish.
Yeah,
And I really don't think it will be long before she has some kind of treat to go.
Yeah,
along with it.
biscotti or something
Sure, that.
Yeah.
even though- Okay,
Could I clarify?
Yep.
What did you did you finally come up with for parking requirements? 1 for the restaurant? And,
well, we didn't really, we kind of lumped it all together.
right. So but
What did we say,
3 for,
3,
Well, it turns into 3 1/4, right?
3 1/4 for the rental units?
Right. Here's my math, right, that's 0.75 times 3.
so a moped and 2 cars.
so the 8 parking, I can just say the 8 existing parking places cover the requirements.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Okay.
and that's 4 on the side and 4 in back. Wait.
Yeah.
Right, I think we, for that, like, we know what it's gonna look like in general, and I have a photo, but it's not.
For color
It's
and
just a-
font and amount of words on it.
Right, but can we just, hold for a second, we should take your receiver and do this, the hearing, and then you can come back to the. So, it's a type 1 action, given its location in the historic national register district. And because it's, historic resources, we need to especially look at that impact, and given the fact that, what the project is, there would be no significant adverse impact on the environment, so I'd like to make that. Thank you. Dick? All in favor? Aye. Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. There's nobody present and nobody online. So we'll close the hearing. The lack of public participation.
The zoning application is not signed by the applicant.
Seeker.
She signed the secret.
Okay, well, what we should do is make a list of things that. On the list.
It appears that she signed where
Yeah.
she was supposed to print her name,
I see.
yeah.
Okay. So let's break this down into items. Paint. The only thing we thought this board should review is the unpainted masonry wall that she'd like to paint the very same color as the gray trim on her door. And I don't have the color photos with me. I think I might have recycled them at home.
I think the color scheme of that building is pretty tasteful,
Yeah.
and I don't think if she's keeping the same color scheme, it's a.
Yeah.
Without seeing it, I think the risk I'm willing to take it.
Yeah. Well, and technically, since it's there, it's in compliance. So does anybody have a problem with painting the gray masonry wall a lighter gray or it's a similar gray, but it's not the exact match that matches the door? We're good with that.
Good.
Okay, next item is the sign. And, I think it's good that it's the same style as Goodfellows and on the existing hanger, but we would need to know what it signs and say and color.
And so.
Said, look at the picture. It's there.
Font, I guess, too, the font, colors,
Yeah,
the amount of words.
and we would need that before. Granting final approval. Where I see this going is granting the conditional approval. And then the third item is the change in use. And that we've determined it's going to be considered a restaurant. Not retail.
What, like the use, like can you look that up on any property, or is it like only comes with the?
Not
I
that
think
I'm
that's
aware.
where the general category comes into play. Like with the county, it would probably list it just as business.
Like real property tax.
Yeah,
But those records are kept locally, like here.
No. No,
County.
that
Go
has been a bakery restaurant in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah,
Or at least it should be a county. It isn't a county, it's with whoever's attorneys were.
No, I think it is in real property. They have a tax code that links to use.
Could be.
I don't know how long they keep the historic records.
The county?
Yeah.
Well, they should.
Okay, so change in use, we're saying it's
As long as the
restaurant.
building's there.
And, in terms of parking, which is part of our review under change in use, we're noting that there are 8 spaces, 4 on the side, and up to 4 on the back. And being a mix of part-time rental and seasonal business, we feel the existing on-site parking is adequate. So what we don't have is details regarding the sign. So we wanna wrap this up. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We'd have to hear something.
Well,
We
not
need,
the signs,
uh, do we, no, it's,
so
we,
we could give a conditional approval.
right. Okay, so. So so if we make conditional approval, we would get the sign info. And I think it's okay to tell her she can go ahead and paint the back wall. You know, continue with the painting. And we want to see the sign details. And then in the May meeting, we can review what she submits and declare it complete.
Yeah,
Is that legitimate approach?
so we're approving the repainting, the change in building use. But not yet, but it's fine.
Right,
And the painting is both bullet points we're approving, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
The trim as well as the masonry.
Yeah.
Right.
and the trim Jim technically can approve without us. And the repainting existing color, he can approve, that didn't. But since we're doing all this,
And even colors from the book,
right, and the gray,
it's from the book.
the book.
It's
also.
just where it's being applied is
Yeah,
what you're looking at.
we're just validating all that, I guess.
The county lists that as land use category is commercial, then land use description is road type building. And that seems to change depending on what, you know, what the buildings are.
Okay. Let's make a motion about this. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Great. Okay. So the next meeting is May 24th.
I reached out to the landlord and I stopped by the store yesterday and talked to the owner. And I basically said, you know, temporary signage is temporary. It needs to come down at some point soon. And permanent signage needs to be reviewed by the planning board. But I think it's gonna be a challenge because it's very much a struggle with English and understanding.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it depends on who you talk to, I was in there one day and met guy who seemed to be running it, and we didn't see any problem, I mean, he's got an accident, but.
Yeah, I think I may be kind of looking into it, but I handed him copies of the sign law, kind of pointed out the things that are okay and the things that were not. And I kind of got the impression he has difficulty reading. Speech wise wasn't too bad.
Does he find it? Are we asking him to put up a new sign?
Well, I think, you know, right now, he's just got banners with the name of the store, so,
Yeah.
you know, at some point. And the banners aren't, other than maybe being pretty bright colors. It's really the all the little flags and banners and things like that that are,
It's like appropriate for like opening weekends.
yeah, and that's it, yeah.
You know, the guy, he's struggling to do anything with that store as it is.
No,
Sure.
I know, sure.
And I don't know how he can.
I asked him a little bit about the business and they have, and I don't know who the they is, but the one in Utica and then two in Albany and one in Brooklyn.
Right, yeah,
So that's
it's all the same thing.
right, but so there's some experience there,
Yeah.
hopefully.
But I did-
Well, there.
I did reach out to the landlord and said, it's ultimately your building. You know, maybe you should help the business be compliant.
Who is the landlord?
Lawler,
Well, there's no landlord.
The other question I have is market and maintenance moving into.
Yeah.
Mary's building. They're gonna have to refile signage over there.
that, she's gonna come up with an application for signage. She did ask if she could do something temporary. One of the things I told Janet today is if you look at the language as it relates to signage in the law, it differs a little bit than what's in the sign
I'm sorry?
guidelines that's as
Okay.
attachment to our law. And if you read the law, it says guidelines kind of are what rule. And in there is a section on temporary signage. And so I told her, just read over that, you know, kind of abide by that. And she called me up and she said, I've got a banner that I'm gonna put out in front of the store. I think it might not be quite the size that we discussed, but she said, hopefully you'll find it tasteful and it's just temporary until I get an application in.
But, Paul Boucher is gonna get an app, he said he was gonna bring it
Today?
in
It,
today.
it was there today.
A little front patio walkway area to kind of define that separately. To kind of draw people in, because we're not used to it being a retail,
I saw a couple of large stoves.
that's part of it, yeah. Or the market.
Now, I can't remember, Jen, if you and I talked about this, but as far as the use is concerned, I mean, it was an art gallery, but it was also retail sale of the art. So I kind of assume Market on Main is retail, it's similar use,
And the rest is staying the same, rental properties.
Right.
Residential. Okay. Motion adjourned. Thank you. What do you propose? Seems like it's going to start to spring. Well, besides the weather, I mean, in terms of planning board.
Yeah, quiet.
Plans.
Clean up your what?
Yeah. My team, my team. Watch it. Well, you're in the fall, I couldn't wait down.
But discards here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, long start.
So Peggy, is
They started on
we haven't heard
the-
anything from
Lawler.
Lawler?
Heater